This is episode number 43 of the Emotional Freedom Podcast. Now, have you ever felt as if you were trying really hard to do something, and yet, at the moment when you are about to achieve something, you begin to question yourself, you begin to feel as if it is empty, or you begin to feel as if it is just too much of a struggle for you? Now, some people may say that it's because you just have to try harder, or is that really the truth? Now, before we jump into any conclusion, I want to share with you that in today's episode, I'm going to cover something that is known as be do have. Or wait a minute, is it have do be? All right, stay on to find out. Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Emotional Freedom Podcast. My name is Luke Bong. I'm your host of the show. Now, I am an accredited NLP trainer as well as a clinical hypnotherapist, and I help people to achieve breakthroughs in their life by mastering their emotional states. Now, in today's episode, I want to share with you about this thing that is known as be, do, have. What exactly is be, do, have? You see, a lot of people I have come across, they want to have something. And they will think of things like, if only I have $1 million, then I will get to do a lot of charity and I can be a successful person. Or I've heard of people say, if only I have a wife, then I can work hard, then I can focus on my job, and then I will be a complete person. So that is what is known as have, do, be. And it sounds very tempting because who doesn't want to have $1 million ringgit? Who doesn't want to have a wonderful life partner? Who doesn't want to have a great job? Who doesn't want to have all the good things in life? But the reality is there are a lot more people struggling to have all these things rather than those people who are having it. Now, and why is that so? Well, for one reason, it is because in order for us to have these things, we have to be, quote unquote, qualified for it. Now, I know probably there will be a lot of people who will argue with me on that because they say things like, for example, but it's by grace that you can have all these things. I'm not going to argue with that because there's no point arguing if, let's say, all right, there's no conclusion to that. But what I would like you to do is just to listen to this with an open mind. You see, when I say that you have to become qualified for something, it's a little bit like this. Now, imagine right now that there's a child, and this child is just like, maybe 5 or 6 years old. Now, let's say, out of good fortune, the child receives a windfall of $10 million. That's a big fortune for a child, right? Now, what do you think this child will do? Will the child know how to be a good custodian for this large sum of money? Or do you think the child will just say, this is a toy, and start to toss it around, have fun and play, and don't even know what is going on? Now, my guess is it's more like number 2. You see, a lot of people, me included, we are struggling to go to the next level. But I think the more important question that you and we have to answer first is, are we ready for that next level that we really wanted? Are we ready to handle that success that we crave for? Are we ready to handle that sum of money that we just hope will just fall on our laps? I'm sure you and we have heard of stories of people who were poor, but they won the lottery. And usually the ending is not a fairy tale ending, isn't it? Usually these are people who later in interviews will say that how they wish they have never ever won the lottery in the first place because their life was destroyed by winning the lottery. Come on, how many people out there would actually cut an arm or a leg, right, in order to win that lottery jackpot? But here we have it, people who actually felt like it was a curse. But is it really a curse? Is winning the lottery actually the curse? Well, I would say that it is because the reality is it has got to do with this person is just not ready or qualified in order to handle that large sum of money. So I am a firm believer in be, do, have. In other words, I believe that before you can have something, you have to be that person who is capable of having it in the first place. And once you be someone, then you will start to do the things that people who has it will be doing it. And only by doing that will you be qualified or will you be eligible to have that which you have always wanted. You see, a lot of people, they buy into the idea of shortcuts. No, you can just take shortcuts and you can have this first. But I think one of the things about shortcut is that it actually leads to a lot of side effects. Let's look at nature. You see, nature is such that it grows or it dies or it does whatever it does with a sense of purpose. And we don't necessarily understand what the true purpose is. So what do people do? People will try to play God, and they will try to genetically modify things. They will try to make things that are round naturally become square so that it's easier for them to cut. Or they will try to do things like in the past, if you were to raise livestock for food, it will probably take you 1 year for it to become, edible. But now, livestock become edible in just 2-3 months. Why? Because they begin to take shortcuts by injecting them with growth hormones and things like that. And ultimately, who suffers? Number one, the animal suffers because it is being forced to grow. Can you imagine if a kid just like 3 years old, a baby, being fed growth hormones so that they look like a 25-year-old person when they are just 5 years old? I mean, it's unthinkable. It's crazy, right? But here we have got people who purposely do that. Why? Because they want to speed things up. They want to have this first and later pay for the consequences. So that's why it makes more sense to actually be someone first, to be that whom you want to be first, and then do the things that that person would do so that you can have what that person has. Now, I remember when I was much younger, there's always this thought that I have to have this, I have to have that, I have to basically just have what the other person has. And there will be times whereby I will just save enough money to have it first, but ended up, once you have it, it feels empty. It feels as if, what's the big deal about that? And the reason is because me as a person, I wasn't ready for that. I was just forcing things to happen. And when it comes to forcing things to happen, usually the ending is not what you have envisioned it to be. So, for today, I encourage you to think about this. For the things that you really want to have, now ask yourself one question and answer it honestly to yourself, which is, who do you have to be to do what you have to do so that you can have what you want to have? Thank you so much for joining me in today's episode. I hope you have found it useful, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.